is a highly requested part 2 to my video, How the Divine Masculine Experiences or Feels Twin Flame Love Differently. How twin flame connection is inherently experienced differently by the physical divine masculine counterparts than by the divine feminine. If you haven't yet listened to part 1, I will leave a link to the original video in the description box. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Infinity, and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you get updates and notifications whenever I post new important channeled messages and information for twin flames, as well as more podcast videos like this. So, how the divine masculine experiences twin flame love differently. In part 1, we talked about how a lot of these differences come from the difference in focus of the masculine versus feminine energy in the physical world. We talked about how the divine feminine really dominates the upper chakra centers more naturally. The crown chakra, the third eye chakra, the throat chakra, meaning that the divine feminine in general tends to be more vocal, more able to intuitively see this divine connection for what it is and kind of sense it, pick up on it more so through her spiritual senses. Now, on the other side of this equation, the divine masculine tends to really feel more open and comfortable in those lower chakra energies. The root chakra, the sacral, the solar plexus, they tend to have a stronger sense of self, meaning their physical identity in this life. They tend to be more materially focused, and their energy in general tends to have more of a density about it than the kind of lighter, airier energy of the divine feminine. So what does this mean for how the divine masculine feels twin flame love differently? So the first way the divine masculine feels twin flame love differently is that the way he admires the divine feminine is often this kind of silent, stoic admiration. It's an admiration that exudes from him and that the feminine can sense and pick up on this soul level, on this energy level. But very often from her physical 3D perspective, this can feel a bit frustrating. The fact that this admiration from the masculine is more silent than vocal. Very often the feminine, especially the wounded feminine, the divine feminine, when she is in a more wounded state of being, energetically speaking, will feel really, really frustrated and a sense of tension about the fact that the masculine is expressing his admiration, or so much of his admiration, simply through his energy, through this kind of silent exuding of love, of adoration to the feminine. This is especially true through periods of physical separation or communication disconnect between twin flame counterparts. And there is a reason for this. Besides the fact that the masculine, as we said in the first video, does tend to have initially, early on in the connection, a weaker throat chakra energy, meaning that in general, it is more difficult for the divine masculine to put into physical 3D words what he is feeling for the divine feminine. But also, and perhaps even more importantly, the divine masculine is and will be silent in his admiration during periods of time where he is aware on this kind of higher self soul level that he feels like he doesn't have anything from his physical perspective in that moment in the physical world to really offer the divine feminine through his words, when he doesn't feel ready yet to share in her light, to share in her world in the physical in a full-blown way. he can at times come off as being more avoidant. But the ironic thing is about the masculine is, from his perspective, from this higher self level, he is thinking, I admire you, divine feminine, so much. I admire you as you're rising in your power, as you are becoming more and more of who you are and who you came here to be. And when I see your beautiful light, I have this stronger awareness of all of my own shadows I am still working through. And there is this sense of not wanting to steal her light, not wanting to detract from her light or take from her in any way. Now, of course, this mentality is very 3D based because on a soul level, twin flames are perfect energetic supporters for one another because they are naturally interconnected at the energy level through this eternal bond. It's really not possible on the soul level for one to give or take because everything just is. When one energetically shifts their energy, it positively impacts or detrimentally impacts the other in connection with them. However, from this divine masculine's physical human perspective, very often when he sees the divine feminine doing really well spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or in the physical world, these are sometimes the moments where if there is some kind of a separation or a disconnect between the twins, he will seem to be radio silent. And this can be confusing to the feminine because she might find herself wondering, why isn't he coming in, giving me more congratulations, talking to me more about how much I am growing and changing my life? And it's like, why isn't he coming more into my physical reality at this time when I am rising into my power in this way? And it's not that, divine feminine, the work you're doing on yourself isn't healing or shifting this connection, because it absolutely is. In fact, that is the most powerful way to shift twin flame connection, is to totally begin to reconnect with our true inner self, because in this self reconnection, we can't help but reconnect with our twin, who is our mirror soul, who is a mere reflection of our own self, our own inner soul self. However, the reason that the masculine often stands at the sidelines with this kind of silent admiration in this way is, again, because the divine masculine, as compared to other forms of masculine energy that show up in our love or relationships, desires so strongly to have this shared sense of partnership as twin flames, to really come to the table as equals within this connection. Because that desire is coming from the realization on the higher self level that they are equal, meaning they are equivalent, they are the same energetically. So the masculine desires not to take from the feminine, but to share in this partnership with her. So if he doesn't feel that he is at the place in the physical where he can show up fully and be that equal partner with the divine feminine, he might pull away in regards to his communication until he has the chance to fully heal and shift himself into that place of being able to show up in the physical as her equal partner in all respects in life. And this leads me into really what we keep touching on here, the second way the divine masculine experiences twin flame love differently. And I wouldn't say this is differently from the divine feminine, because this is the model of love they are both shifting into, but different from how other forms of masculine energy would express their love to the feminine. And this is that the divine masculine doesn't want to take from the feminine. Now, I know that for some listening, this can be confusing, because there may have been times in your twin flame connection when you felt as though in the physical, the masculine was asking things from you, trying to take from you, either energetically, emotionally, like they wanted something from you. And yes, this can happen when the masculine is in his wounded state. But the key here is, If the masculine is wounded and therefore is trying to take from the feminine or accepting this kind of energy of self-sacrifice from the feminine in order to gain for himself in the physical, this will be so incredibly uncomfortable to the divine masculine on the soul level that inevitably this will lead to cycles of separation in the physical between the twins, because divine masculine energy cannot tolerate trying to overlay this 3D model of love and relationship of give and take, of the feminine self-sacrificing and then him taking from her, because he feels the dissonance with that at his core, at his soul, even if he can't find the words to describe it. And ultimately, it will lead again to either him pulling away or to these cycles of disconnection. But the ironic thing about all of this is, and what can be so confusing from the perspective of the divine feminine on the other side of this, is that what the masculine is really doing here is honoring the divine feminine, is trying to show up fully, completely, in the most healed way for the feminine, whether he realizes he's doing that or not. And so when we as the divine feminine step into this energy of self-sacrificing, trying to overexert ourselves for the masculine in the physical world, because we are moving from a state of fear of losing them, or because we feel as though we have to give to them to receive back that sense of validation or support that we need. Our true divine masculine, although this dynamic can go on for a temporary period of time, they will ultimately pull away, because what they are pulling away from is this perpetuated energy dynamic between us, where the divine feminine is stepping out of her power to over-sacrifice for the masculine, and the masculine is stepping out of his power, remaining in this disempowered, wounded state to take from the feminine. So when he pulls away, on a soul level, this is happening to break the pattern beneath the counterparts, to allow them to heal this wounded energy separately in the physical, so that they can reunite under this beautiful new paradigm, new operating model of love, which is unconditional love, which is what twin flames come here to teach, which is love without restriction, love without sacrifice or giving and taking. Because the masculine has this kind of protective love for his divine feminine counterpart that means he hates to see her giving herself away, over-sacrificing herself for others, but even for him, it causes him on this soul deep level, on this core level, so much pain to see his divine feminine counterpart giving herself, sacrificing herself, martyring herself to try and please others, instead of standing tall in her own power and strength and confidence. Which leads me to the third way the divine masculine feels twin flame love differently, which is that twin flame love calls forth a highest version of, well, of course, both twins. It does this for the feminine as well, but the difference is, very often when this highest self gets called forth within the masculine, he isn't yet ready to fully embody that highest version of himself. Whereas very often for the feminine, because the feminine tends to lead in the arena of spirituality, life purpose, soul path, whereas the masculine tends to lead more so in the material, the physical, creating this kind of grounded stability in the physical world. What happens is very often the divine feminine is already showing up to the twin flame experience in this lifetime, having gone through a lot of spiritual experiences within her life that have prepared her to be the one to more clearly see the spiritual component to this connection and call the masculine forth to the same level of spiritual consciousness. On the other side of this, the masculine tends to, by the time he experiences this twin flame connection in the physical, he tends to have stabilized a lot of material success, accomplishment, really grounded or rooted himself in some way in the physical world. However, when it comes to his spiritual growth, he is usually not fully ready to embody that highest, most authentic, most spiritually conscious version of himself. And because his divine feminine counterpart is calling him to that most conscious self, which is ultimately his ideal self, the divine masculine will very often call the divine feminine his ideal. He will even say this and feel this at the conscious level. He will say or think to himself, "You are my ideal," which is so often why the divine masculine will often say cryptic things to his divine feminine counterparts. Things like, "I want it to be you in the ends," or "You are my ideal person," or he will even say, "You deserve better than me," or "I want you to find better than me." What he's really acknowledging here is his fear of the gap between where he perceives himself to be in that moment and the place he knows, the level of consciousness he knows that you, the divine feminine, are calling him toward, that he knows he still isn't yet fully embodying, fully showing up as in this physical world. So the way this masculine will feel twin flame love is by seeing the divine feminine as his ideal person, seeing a life with the divine feminine as being what he would want his ideal life to be. And the reason he sees it this way is because on some level he is aware that this connection and his divine feminine counterpart is calling him towards this most conscious, healed, and fulfilled, not just materially, but spiritually fulfilled version of himself. So I am going to go ahead and close this podcast here. I do hope something here resonated with you. If you would like a part 3, maybe we can even do a part 3 to this series as well. I know a lot of you are interested in this topic and kind of how the divine masculine sees, feels, or perceives twin flame connection. Because I do know that so many of you tuning in here, so many of us are the divine feminine, kind of on the other side of this. So I hope this was helpful to you. If it was, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, leave me a comment and let me know what you think, or if you would like a part 3. Also, I am going to be leaving more information about my twin flame 7 chakra clearing subliminal meditation in the pinned comment and description box under this video. This subliminal comes from my website, soundandsoulful.com. And as many of you know, I have over 100 subliminals for all areas of life on this website available to members. When you sign up for a 7-day free trial account, you can access any of these subliminals that I've created, including several specifically for twin flame connection. But the most highly used and most recommended subliminal I've created is my twin flame 7 chakra clearing, because this is a really comprehensive, deep level energy clearing subliminal to help you clear out any energetic blockages, keeping you and your twin flame in this kind of separation consciousness. So meditating with this on a daily basis will help you to clear your energy for more open, more authentic, and more manifested connection with your twin flames. So again, all of the information on that is under this video. Otherwise, I hope you have a beautiful, wonderful rest